Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Apologies for the sound problems yesterday. That was crazy. It was weird. Like, did you notice at first, like, it started just fine, and then it started chopping out later? And so a mic connection doesn't do that. Typically, a mic connection is consistent. So I dug into the problem yesterday, and I found out that there was this service was chewing up all of my hard disk. It was the system restore service. And so I turned that off and everything looks normal so far. I think we're good to go, but just let me know if the sound starts cutting out again. And you know, these laptops, they don't last like they used to. My very first laptop that I used to start this channel, it was an old Acer laptop, and that thing lasted for years. But now these laptops, you know, they only last about 3 years. That's about my average. I try not to spend too much on these laptops. My limit is about $500. That's what I spent. So I went ahead and ordered one just in case, because a couple of times my laptop broke, and then we had no way to go live. I had no way to reach you guys. I had to like wait for one in the mail. And so now I'm just going to try to preempt that and do it that way. Yeah, Benjamin says you need a desktop. Yeah, I know, but the thing is like sometimes I travel, sometimes I'll do shows from other places, you guys. And so I need that flexibility to be able to take off if I need to and still be able to do a show for you guys. And the desktop just isn't mobile, right? Well, how's the sound? Just give me a quick sound check. Everyone says the sound is good. Yeah, I think I figured out the problem. It was that service running in the background, showing up on my hard drive, which was causing the sound to suffer. But let's get into these headlines today. You guys, top of the headlines today has to be this bizarre incident at the swearing in of Dr. Oz. And it happens just as Trump is threatening Iran. Did you guys... Uh-oh, sound is going in and out again? Are you serious? Sound is going in and out, says Sean. Is the sound going in and out, or is it not? How is it? How's the sound, you guys? Everyone else says, great. Excellent sound, excellent sound. Okay, so some people might be just trolling, saying that the sound's going in and out when it's actually not. All right, so did you guys hear about this whole thing with Dr. Oz? We're going to play this back. We're actually going to do it in slow motion. We're going to zoom in on this incident. They actually caught the person on video who allegedly had a seizure. Now, this is, of course, is the cover story. We're never supposed to believe what these people tell us, because they'll say anything to cover up something that wasn't supposed to be caught on camera. And you can hear the press secretary yelling at the press, saying, everybody out, everybody out. There was something they didn't want them to see, which means they didn't want all of us to see. So much for transparency, right? It's transparent when everything's controlled. And what you're going to see next is pretty bizarre. It makes you wonder, was this girl coming forward with something that happened to her? Now, I don't want to read too much into this, but let's watch this in real time first. And then we're going to watch it in slow motion and zoom.
Them once they were broke and they didn't have any money for Hamas. They didn't have any money for Hezbollah. There wouldn't have been an October 7th disaster. They were broke. They had no money, and they weren't spending it to terrorist organizations because they had none. When Biden came in, he took all the sanctions off. China wasn't allowed to buy.
Now, watch closely as this whole thing goes down. This is creepy.
I said, if you buy, because they're their biggest customer, I said, you buy 1 barrel of oil, just 1 barrel of oil from Iran, and you can't do business in the United States. And by the way, we have nice conversations going with China just to intercede, you know. It's like really very good. But with Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. And if they have a nuclear weapon, you'll all be very unhappy. You'll all be very unhappy because your life will be in great danger. Yeah. Yeah.
Press out, press out.
Press out. Trump says, whoa, let's keep watching. Look at Dr. Oz's wife here on the right. She looks totally freaked out, doesn't she? She's like touching the cross on her chest. Trump then goes over. He's got the yellow tie, like the yellow egg yolk. Let's back this up just a little bit. There's the press secretary. Everybody out. Everybody out. And then watch closely. There she goes. Whoa, that's like something out of a movie, right? Did you see the girl? Now let's back this up, and I'm going to turn the sound off. We're going to do this in slow motion. Try to break down what happened. Now, the girl that allegedly had the seizure, she looks very young, doesn't she? So the question is, what is a person this young doing in this press briefing? Is this a child of someone? Now, I'm just asking questions. I don't know any of the answers to all this, right? We got to look at this stuff. Okay, so here's the slow motion. And I've got it zoomed in so we can get a close look. There's Trump. And you're going to see her come into frame here. We'll probably try to pause it too. Camera goes by. And here comes. And this girl comes into frame, and they've got their hand over her mouth. I don't know who the woman is that's holding her, but you're about to see it right now. Whoa. Now, apparently she's already recovered. There's a woman holding her mouth shut. And, maybe she bit her tongue. I don't know. I don't see any blood, but, it could be too early to see blood. There's a guy behind her. She looks like a younger girl. So it makes you wonder what she was doing in there. Now, does anyone know who this girl is? Again, we're just asking questions about all this to see what's going on. And do you cover somebody's face when they're having a seizure? Normally what they do is they put something in their mouth to prevent them from biting their tongue. But it looks like she already got up from the seizure. It was like a brief seizure, maybe an epileptic seizure. I don't know. This is just so weird. Now, we all know that demonic possession is real. And this latest incident marks the latest in several bizarre medical emergencies surrounding Trump, doesn't it? There was faintings. There were eye attacks. Remember, there was an eye attack at one of Trump's early rallies, and other medical emergencies. Now, what makes this interesting to me and makes this a little bit different is this. It all happens in front of essentially Trump's medical team Trump's medical team. Let's get a wide shot of this. This is all of essentially Trump's medical federal team. Now, let's look at this scene here, because a movie classic came to mind, and I want you guys to put your thinking caps on here. Remember, in the movie Wizard of Oz. Somebody tell me the plot of the Wizard of Oz as it relates to Dorothy. And what happened to Dorothy? Let's go back into the chat. Take a good look. We got Trump, RFK Jr., Dr. Oz, and his wife. Let's go back in here. Now, what is she holding? Is that the Bible she's holding? Whoa. Let's go back into the chat here and have a little bit of fun with that screenshot that I just showed you, and get your guys' opinion on all this. Now, this is a little bit of a stretch, I'll admit, but think about this. What happened to Dorothy? Yes, Dorothy entered the dream. She fainted, just like the girl in the press briefing. It's Oz's granddaughter. She's 11 years old. Thanks, guys over Spokane. Thanks for that bit of information. That definitely helps us to break all this down. Yeah, she was picked up by a tornado, but by the end of it, they make it seem as if the whole thing was a dream. Dorothy wakes up after the tornado hit her house. The tornado is the portal. Now let's think about the other characters in that scene. Yes, Lorraine Ray got it. What we're looking at is the Lion, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and Dorothy. Let's go back to it. Which one is the Lion? Let's see which one in the Lion is. Take a look, and I'm going back into the chat. Who is the Lion? And then I'll break down what all this means on a spiritual level. The Lion is... Dr. Frankenstein says she died and didn't know it in the tornado. Yes, the emerald green dress, Raw Jones. RFK, yes, Jamie. He has to be the Lion, right? He even looks like the Lion from The Wizard of Oz. Now, who is Dr. Oz? Obviously is the wizard, right? So who are we left with here? I think that his wife, who is Dr. Oz's wife? Who does she represent? She's in green. Who does she represent? I think Trump is the Tin Man without a heart, because everything is going AI and electronic. All right. Let's look at let's look this up. Okay, Wizard of Oz. Okay, for some reason I thought I remember her being in green. The Good Witch. So the Good Witch and the Bad Witch and the Wizard of Oz is what Dr. Oz's wife could represent. The Wicked Witch or the Good Witch. And that pretty much covers it. The only person missing is the straw man. Who would the straw man be? Well, the straw man could be non-existent, because that's what it is. A straw man is a fake identity, right? It's something that's like not real. So that would make sense. But wow, that's kind of spooky. It's not an exact match, but we've got all of the makings. Maybe Trump's tie is the straw man. The Scarecrow. Who knows? But that is bizarre. So good job, you guys, with that little exercise, trying to figure out how this all fits in. Some of you are saying the Good Witch. It's almost like they reenacted this or something. Her face is green. Tin Man. Trump's eyes are closed. Straw man would be a scarecrow Jesus. Oh, yeah, like their fake version of Jesus. We are the straw man, T. Harmon says. Trump has no expression on his face. Exactly. So that's the Tin Man without a heart. Remember? The straw man is the viewer. Good job, you guys. Now let's get into some of these other headlines. There was another aviation accident, this time a Delta plane catches fire at the Orlando airport. By now, you guys may have heard about this. Let's play this and see what they have to say about this airplane crash. Now, of course, this could be fake, but what they're telling us is that the passengers had to escape on slides. Let's watch this.
The FAA is investigating another scary moment involving an airliner, this time
Come on. Delta flight.
in Orlando. Chris Van Cleve has the story.
Look at that. Oh, boy. Let's back this up a little bit. Whoa. Now, with AI, they can do anything, right? They can make anything up. They can pretend all they want. I wasn't on this plane, so I don't know if this is real or not. But let's try to watch this here.
Chris Van Cleve has the story.
Oh, hey, hey.
That even sounds fake. Oh, hey, there's a fire. Wouldn't people be screaming? Help, there's a fire. You know, everyone rushing the door. Look at that. That doesn't even look real.
Flames erupted from the engine of a Delta Airlines Airbus.
They're like, hey, excuse me, there's a fire outside of our window, dude.
A330 Monday, flight 1213 with 294 people on board.
Stay seated.
Stay seated. Yeah, right. Who's going to stay seated when the plane's on fire? I mean, this thing could explode.
Stay calm.
Had just pushed back from the gate in Orlando. It was heading for
That almost looks like, I mean, how would that even catch fire? This stuff isn't even flammable.
Atlanta. Kyle Becker was sitting in row 35.
It's almost like they're trying to scare people out of flying, right? Like that didn't even look real to me. So sorry for the video not playing. Delta passenger jet caught fire in the tarmac at Orlando International Airport, and the passengers had to evacuate via emergency exit slides. Delta Airlines 123 and 1213, bound for Atlanta, was pushing back from the gate at 11:15 a.m. Wow. Now this begs the question. There are many theories out there about jet fuel. And when you look at an airplane like this, it doesn't even look like it can hold enough fuel possible to take it the vast distances that these planes travel. Some people believe that there is some secret technology inside these engines that once they're ignited and started, they use airflow to actually propel themselves instead of the actual fuel. I would not argue with that. It's definitely a possibility, because you just can't get enough fuel into this plane. It would weigh so much, the thing wouldn't even be able to get off the ground. But that's pretty crazy, you guys. So that's the latest on aviation. Now, let's get into, I'm going to check in with you guys. We're going to get into the Pope, because obviously the Pope has died, and many people believe he will be the last Pope. That this will be it, based on a prophecy. So I guess we will have to see. But I wanted to read up on how a Pope is selected, because I didn't really know the details of it. You know, I'd heard bits and pieces, but I didn't know exactly what a conclave was. So I wanted to dig into it. I wanted to go down the conclave rabbit hole. This is it here, the Papal conclave. Now, if you didn't know, the Catholic Church claims its authority under Peter. Peter was supposedly the first bishop who received the keys to heaven, the keys to the church from Jesus. Now, there's people argue about, was this a literal key? Was it a spiritual key? Nobody seems to know. But When Peter died, they named the first pope. Well, it was the second pope, technically, after Peter. Peter was supposedly called the first pope. And this pope was called Linus. Linus was the second pope who apparently received the keys from Peter, spiritual or physical. Now, all of this that I'm explaining to you is heavily disputed. There are several different accounts. They're not even sure if Linus was martyred or not. Peter was martyred, but there are conflicting reports about whether or not Linus was martyred. And weirdly, the Roman Catholic Church stopped being persecuted during this time. So we went from Peter, confirmed martyred, right, to these popes. And all of a sudden, all was good in the world of Christianity. It just magically stops. You got to ask yourself some questions like, why did that happen? Why all of a sudden was there peace after all this happened? Okay. Typically, when this happens, it's because the church and pagans have combined together and the deception has been established. So there's no need for the devil to continue to persecute true Christians because he's already got them wrapped up in his lies. So this is where some people question the authority claimed by the Catholic Church because of the conflicting reports. Now I'll put links to these Wikipedia pages that go back and footnote some of these conflicting reports. Now people are really not on the same page as to the authority of the Catholic Church. But I went through this whole system of the conclave, the process of choosing the new pope. And I found some interesting things in this process because I thought, since everybody's talking about this being the last pope, then we should look at the first pope and how popes are chosen. So the way these popes are voted in is by an organization called the College of Cardinals. And some early conclaves lasted for years. It took them years to select a new pope. The voters from the College of Cardinals are locked away in seclusion, which is kind of ironic, right? Since they claim to have the key of the kingdom, but yet they lock them away. And look at how long this Wikipedia article is on the Papal conclave. All this pomp and circumstance. I mean, I've never seen anything like this before. There's nothing even in the Bible that was this long and drawn out. And it makes you wonder what's really going on behind these closed doors. All this secrecy makes you wonder if it's some kind of ritual or a possession. Nobody is allowed to talk about what happened inside these conclaves. It's a big secret. And oftentimes these conclaves, they'll scan around looking for electronic listening devices, surveillance equipment. That's how seriously they take this. Now, if God truly chose these leaders, would there be all this secrecy? No. The devil is the only one that I know that hides in secrecy. Now, here's where things get interesting. And if you look closely, you could see the deception behind all this. After the Pope dies, they say a phrase, sede vacante. The throne is empty. Now, last time I checked, none of the disciples referred to themselves as rulers worthy of a throne. So there's a giveaway right there that these people, these popes, have elevated themselves to some kind of position that is even far above what the disciples claimed. It's not biblical. Now, this Wikipedia article was so long, I couldn't even get down to the bottom of it. I was like, okay, the picture is clear. All these steps and pomp and circumstance, all this whole big deal, that's not of the Bible. That's not of God. Now, I did get down far enough in the article to read something really interesting about the black and white smoke that signals a failed or successful election. Let's find that part on the page because it's important that you guys see this smoke. Now, we've all heard of the smoke. Fumata is what they call it. And there had been some confusion over the years because sometimes the smoke didn't come out in the color that it was supposed to come out. Remember, black smoke means that they failed to elect a pope, and the white smoke means that they have indeed chosen a pope. So, all of this comes about when they burn the ballots. Now, the original ballots were made with beeswax. The bees. Isn't there some like Catholic art that shows bees in it? Interesting, right? The matrix. The honeycomb matrix. Now, more recently, since 1958, they wanted more consistency with the color of the smoke, so there was no more confusion. And what did they find? Well, here we are, 66 years after 1958. And this pope who just died was the 266th pope. Here are these numbers again, 58 and 66, connected to Trump. And they recently added chemicals to the smoke for more consistent color. And guess what chemicals they used for the smoke? I was blown away when I saw this. For the black smoke, they added sulfur, which of course is Lucifer's element. And for the white smoke, pine rosin, which I believe is like pine resin. Rosin, also known as colophony or Greek pitch. It's a resinous material obtained from pine trees and other plants. So the pine. So that's interesting. So that's what I found on the conclave and the first popes and the authority that is claimed by the Catholic Church. I got a couple more stories for you guys today. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. All right. Yes, let no man call anyone father except for the Father in heaven. I mean, I didn't want to make this a show all about debunking Catholicism because many of you are way ahead of the game on that. But I wanted to show you a couple of new pieces of information about all this. Now, let's get into some of these other stories. Next, we're going to talk about Fentanylcide, which is a new term that we coined a couple months ago. Fentanylcide, murder by fentanyl, which of course is the plot of some TV shows and movies. I think Yellow Jackets, the TV series, was all about, well, not all about, but there were a team of girls, like a soccer team or something. They get stranded in the forest and they turn into a witch's cult. And when they grow up, one of them uses fentanyl to stage a murder, right? And I've seen it a couple other places, but it's pretty rare that I've seen this. And unless you're looking for it, you won't pick up on it. Well, I think this is a thing. I think this is what these people do. It's really easy to kill somebody and fake a drug overdose, especially with fentanyl, because it's 100% effective in the right doses. We've seen videos of cops who have been searching cars and they end up overdosing on fentanyl just by simply touching it. And so this is now a thing. Well, guess what? There is a mayor in California who says that he wants to thin the herd by handing out free fentanyl in California. Let's read this. Wow, he calls it a purge. Now this is Lancaster, California. This is like, I think this is like the desert kind of near Los Angeles. Lancaster's mayor's remedy for homelessness, free fentanyl and a purge. Wow. The mayor of Lancaster, Rex Paris, has ignited a controversy after musing during a council meeting that one approach to homelessness would be to give them free fentanyl, all the fentanyl they want. Paris, a larger-than-life trial lawyer, made the incendiary comments about the drug responsible for tens of thousands of overdose deaths during a February city council meeting in a retort to a resident who objected to his musings of congregating unhoused residents into an encampment. Wow. So now, if you didn't know, homelessness is an all-time high in places like Lancaster and these kinds of places. Drug use is at an all-time high as well. It's a very sad state of affairs in some of these places. But for a person to literally come out and say something like this, especially a mayor, is pretty crazy. They're literally admitting that fentanyl was probably created as a purge to just kill off a bunch of people. Wow. Now, if you haven't heard by now, Google allegedly lost a lawsuit, and now they have been deemed as a monopoly. So the government is actually considering paying people not to use Google's search engine so that they can decentralize Google. Now, what's the purpose of all this? Who knows? I thought I would report on this. Government wants you to get paid not to use Google search. Of course, I'm really happy about this because Google ruined YouTube. They literally ruined YouTube. YouTube used to be all about you and me and original people. Now it's turned into some corporate thing with, fancy editing and companies getting behind people and basically pretending like the people are authentic and organic, but really they're paid. They have whole teams of marketing people. YouTube never used to be like that. Now, in the beginnings, some of us did get irritated with YouTube because literally anybody could get on there, and no matter how ridiculous their content was, a lot of them would go viral. And we're like, man, we've got like important things to say, and why aren't more people watching like the important things to say? But, we went through this phase where people just went on to YouTube for entertainment. So if someone had kind of a catchy personality, they would get super huge without a whole lot of things behind their content. But I would rather take that YouTube than the YouTube that it became, which is just corporate. I mean, literally, when you watch a YouTube channel, you have no idea if there's some kind of huge corporation or people backing it, whatever control mechanism is. It's rarely just regular people who pop on here or people who have actually something to say. Those days are pretty much over. Now, you guys have been with us since 2012, so this channel is authentic. But for even some of the newer truth channels, they're clearly produced by something outside of them, and they're posing as something that they maybe aren't. So we'll see how all this shakes out. But let's get into this next story here. Trump is now defunding Planned Parenthoods across America. Now, of course, this is a good thing. I don't want that blood on my tax dollars. We shouldn't be paying tax dollars anyway, but if you have to, at least we should have some say in how those are spent. And I don't want my tax dollars spent on stuff like this. Now, the question is, because he's defunding these Planned Parenthoods, are less babies really dying? Let's read this article here. Clinics begin closing as Trump administration continues freeze on family planning funds. Clinics around the country that provide contraception and other reproductive health services to low-income patients are running out of funds as they await word from the Trump administration on tens of millions of dollars in grants frozen last month. Now, my assumption is they're going to free up these funds, or they'll pretend like the Supreme Court stepped in, and this will be right back on track as it was before. They just have to give the illusion that they're doing something conservative, right? Let's keep reading here. It says dozens of medical providers from California to Maine, including 9 Planned Parenthood affiliates, have struggled to stay afloat since more than $65 million for the Title 10 family planning program was withheld on April 1st. See, April Fools. A funding freeze that the Trump administration said was aimed at enforcing executive orders on diversity and immigration. Federal offices gave the groups 10 days to submit detailed records showing that they don't discriminate in hiring or in patient care, but those who did so by the deadline said they have not received a response. So it's radio silent. So there's this little, hazing period, and then things will probably all be all right back on track. So we'll keep an eye on this and see what's going on. But wow. Now, if you hadn't heard by now, things are going to go back to the way they were in terms of school loans. White House plans to take tax refunds and wages from student loan defaulters. So they're back to garnishing wages and withholding your tax return if you have failed to pay your school loans. Let's take a look here.
Aviation has announced we will put an end to Joe Biden's illegal student loan bailout attempts. No student loan has been referred to collection since March of 2020. That comes to an end. On May 5th, the Department of Education will resume involuntary collections for borrowers with defaulted federal student loans. The student loan portfolio.
So it's a different world now that we live in, isn't it? Heck, back when I was in school, my total school loans that I borrowed, and I had a bachelor of science degree from Cal Poly, I only borrowed $15,000. That was back in 1996. And that paid for all my housing and my food and my books for 5 years that I was in college. And my tuition was covered by my grants. But back then, the very first quarter, I'll never forget, very first quarter of tuition at Cal Poly was $393 per quarter. And now it went up after that. I think by the end of it, it was like $1,200 a quarter, but that's still a deal compared to what people are borrowing now for schooling. Now people are borrowing in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I don't believe there's any way to really pay that back unless you get a really well-paying job or you go to work for yourself. But, you're not going to pay back $200,000 if you get out of college and are making $50,000 a year. It's going to take you decades to pay that back over time. And I'm not saying people shouldn't pay back their loans. What I'm saying is that college tuition is inflated. The cost of college is inflated compared to what it used to cost. It shouldn't cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to college. Okay. That's ridiculous. Now, I want to end the show today with just a couple words about the TV series, The Last of Us. Now, if you hadn't heard, this is all about a fungus apocalypse, the end of the world. It's a very popular TV series on HBO. And it's the newest season. It's season 2 of The Last of Us. And I wanted to recap the first 2 episodes. Now, it was very difficult to watch because once again, they always have to include the LGBTQ. It's like, why is every major TV series have a central theme of LGBTQ? It's overrepresented, isn't it? It's overrepresented. And they literally depict a right-wing bigot in the series because 2 girls are kissing in a church at a New Year's Eve party. And they shame this guy and threaten to throw him out to the zombies. And he's forced to plead for forgiveness and simp out to the agenda. It's very difficult to watch because he wasn't even that mean. He just all he said was, really, in a church? And for that, he got shamed. So it was very difficult to watch this. But let me give you the takeaway on the first 2 episodes of The Last of Us. Basically, what they say is that this killer fungus will originate from the permafrost. That's the theme of these first 2 episodes. As these zombies evolve, they become smart. They develop tactics in order to go after the last remaining humans who are held up in this town, way up in the mountains. I think it's in Wyoming. There's snow on the ground, and the zombies basically use their own dead as like to keep warm, and they hibernate under the snow underneath the dead, and they come out when they see that there's an opportunity to attack the humans. So this is more permafrost programming, permafrost pathogen programming. So at some point, they will say that there's some kind of crazy virus, and because of global warming, it's been released from the permafrost. So it's all our fault. Now, I don't believe it will actually come from the permafrost. They will just say it does. It will really have been created in a lab. Okay. Then they'll offer us a cure, which will change our DNA. This is how I think all this is going to go down. Now, I'm not going to spoil the rest of the episodes. I'm going to continue to watch them, and I'll report back. We may do a decode with screenshots and clips and everything. But needless to say, that was the predictive programming that I picked up on in those episodes. So I'm back in the chat, you guys. Pretty crazy, right? Thanks for your input on the fainting episode. That was really good with the Wizard of Oz stuff. Yeah, I picked up on that right away. I was like, wow, we're watching the Wizard of Oz. All right. Good morning. So how was the sound today? Was there any cutting out at all? Like I said, my other laptop should be here in a couple days. Hopefully we'll be back on track. I don't have to worry about technical difficulties anymore. It's about processing power, you guys. Like, I don't have a lot of processing power on this old laptop. So things bottleneck, and then you start getting weird glitches. So what was this series? It's called The Last of Us. There was already a full first season. Like, broke a lot of records. Cheryl says the sound was good. Thanks, Cheryl, for letting me know. Okay, good. All right. Perfect sound, says Rebecca. Thanks, you guys. So is there anything else you guys want to talk about? Tony says quantum computers. Numbers 6:24-26. The Lord bless thee, keep thee. The Lord make his face shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. The Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Thanks, Dudley. No sound problems detected today. Thank you, David. Awesome. Yeah, I think it was that background process, and it was just pulling away resources from the sound card. So hopefully everything's better. Life in the Shack says, watching Walking Dead for a second time. A lot I missed the first time. The Last of Us isn't very good. Yeah, and then there's this weird dynamic between the girl and the guy. It's almost like he's some like creepy dad figure who's not really the dad. And you get this weird pedo vibe. I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but he likes to hang around young girls. And you know, so it's just weird. It's totally weird. Very difficult to watch. Oz was about the money system. Golden Yellow Brick Road, Follow the Money, Emerald City, U.S. Cash, and more. Thanks, Julia. Okay. It's in everything now. Yes, it is. Susanna got the same vibe. Yeah, there's all this innuendo. I think the opening part of it was let's see, what was it? There was the opening scene had pedo written all over it. I was like, what the heck? Yeah, the girl is autistic in real life. They just announced that a couple weeks ago, just before the second season kicked off. So. All right. You do know that Pope Francis didn't like Trump. Coincidence you think that Vance visits and Pope dies. I think they pretend not to like each other, but they're all in it together. They all kiss the ring. They all bow. I think all of that's just theater. But yeah, on paper, they supposedly didn't like each other. I heard that he got sick on February 14th and then died 66 days later. I don't know if that's true. If someone could confirm that. There's another 66 connection. So the 266th Pope died 66 years after 1958. 1958 is when they changed the chemical makeup of the ballots to create certain smoke. So, all right. Thank you for the sound checks. All right, you guys, I guess we're going to get off of here. Thanks everybody for showing up. Not sure what we're going to do tomorrow, but figure something out. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Much love.